World. Welcome to Mullen Mission Productions. I'm Alex. Today, I have a very multifaceted story for you, which is what I like to cover at the Fractal Journal, a journal that likes to see things for what they are. The world is iterative, and nothing occurs in a vacuum, as you all well know. So today's story is about Aaron Schlossberg, a New York attorney who went on a bit of a tirade at a restaurant where there were some Spanish-speaking employees. He took issue with this, said that he paid welfare, that the least they could do was speak English, that he was going to call ICE. You can find out more details about this in the links below. The reason that this story is interesting, really worth sussing out, is because it has a lot of implications and really shines a light on a lot of different areas that are sort of, I hate to use this word, problematic in today's society. Okay, let's begin with social media and privacy. Aaron Schlossberg was a private individual who had an outburst in public. He was filmed. That film was uploaded to the internet. It went viral, and eventually the owner of the suites where he practiced law heard about it, took issue, no longer practices law there. Social media was used to coordinate the playing of mariachi music and a bit of a fiesta outside of Schlossberg's apartment, which is basically harassment on top of all of the things that had affected his job. Now, he was behaving very rudely, and I'm sure these people were offended, but is this behavior we should encourage? I think not. Aside from that, in terms of social media, is it dangerous? Well, sure, any tool can be dangerous. Social media is a marvelous catalyst that can either be used for good or ill. Even though it was used for ill in this instance, we can also use it to be reasonable and convert people like Mr. Schlossberg into somewhat more nuanced views of things. But we should by no means be bullies in turn to really a degree that far, I believe, outshines whatever bullying Mr. Schlossberg or any other person in this hypothetical situation did or could do. So the social media companies themselves, should we put restrictions on taking videos of a private citizen, losing their cool, putting it online and using it basically to launch a campaign that turns this person to a public figure? I don't know. That's a really complicated question. But as a society, outside of all of these legal things, which I think legislation should be avoided if it can, as a society, we can encourage people to act a little bit more rationally and not like a high school. This very much reminded me of an incident from my past. I had a friend with whom I would actually often take car rides around town, and he died in a car accident. And there was a fellow at the school who, on some social media site or somewhere, posted that, well, this kid, which was true, was kind of a bit wild, and that's kind of what happens. And, well, the guy that posted that got a lot of crap from the school, and I think people even showed up outside his house. He actually, I think, missed school because of this. And this is just kind of like, it's very sophomoric behavior, because I believe this happened, no, it was my senior year, but anyway, it happened in high school, and it's kind of high school behavior, and as a society, we should discourage that. If these people take an issue with him, talk to him, or etc. Don't destroy the man. And I understand the impulse. I mean, that's kind of funny. Like, he's obviously got issue with Spanish-speaking people, so they go outside and play mariachi music. A vlogger, public speaker type person that I enjoy listening to called Sargon Avocat said, well, but in America, you're expected to speak English. Well, the women in the video were speaking English, and it's not like they have to avoid speaking Spanish. That was a moot point, in my opinion. especially America is such a polyglot nation by nature. I do absolutely think that English should be mandatory, but to freak out and take issue with the fact that a little bit of Spanish was being spoken, it's equally as immature as freaking out and playing mariachi music outside of his apartment. Now, this is all getting into social expectations, which in this country to me are just bizarre. We have this culture of in-your-face attitudes, of a love of sarcasm, of being, people who just casually swear all the time. Yet there's these little sticking points of politesse that you shouldn't cross as if it was Victorian society. And I feel like it's not really even the aggression that caused people to show all this ire towards Mr. Schlossberg. I feel that's the fact that he expressed a politically unpopular opinion, and it just goes against the entire ethos of America that a person is just completely tossed away just because he did something that were completely douchey. I understand people's frustrations, but would you want something like that to happen to you? Because double-edged sword and all that. So, social expectations are also the parlance of an employer or of a landlord, like in the case of Mr. Schlossberg. And should those social expectations be grounds for termination if the work or the payment that he was making was up to par? Where does professional and personal kind of delineate? There was precedent for people being fired for goofy conduct, like I believe her name was Ellen Simonelli or something to that effect, who was a stewardess, and around 2004 she had a blog. When her mother died, to cope with that, she wrote it, and it was about stewardessing, and in it she took pictures of herself sitting on some seats in her Delta uniform, and they were a little bit sexy, but I mean nothing that would be even terribly risque by 1950 standards. And I'm pretty sure she got fired. Mr. Schlossberg, I don't think has any grounds for any kind of firing or action against him because he was not on any kind of company property. He wasn't representing a client, and he wasn't wearing anything that identified him as practicing for any particular firm, etc. So I don't think that someone else should have been fired either. There's just a lot of weirdness. And polarization, really. Political polarization is really trite because everybody talks about it, everybody knows about it. But everybody talks about it, knows about it because it's such a pressing issue. People really bifurcate on this divide. And this sort of ideological saturation and conditioning is only possible through these oversimplified frameworks of understanding. And the only way we're going to overcome this problem is by people who want to have nuanced discussions becoming more vocal in greater numbers. Stop with the I can't be bothered attitude. Let go of a little bit of that laziness, a little bit of that fear. And sometimes it's none of those things. I'm not going to judge anybody. I just know for me, those were some of the factors. Because we need to have these discussions in what is a democratic republic, and we need to have them with nuance because nuance is everywhere. And thanks so much for joining me today. I wrote an article to accompany this piece, which you can find on my website. There'll be a link to below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Whether or not you agree with my analysis, feel free to comment below. I'd like to say that I just do this for pure stoic reasons of feeling it imperative. I like to know that I'm not shouting into a void. And if you'd like to support my work, feel free to visit my Patreon below. I'd really appreciate that. In any case, thanks so much for stopping by, and take care.